it's going to help in the long run for this team if they're going to be competitive.
Oh, 100%. And especially with these injuries, the nice part is it's happening against our rivals. Nick Foles, hurt his shoulder. Jewis going down. It's. I don't necessarily root for the injuries for other teams, but if they're going to have them, I'd rather have them against the rivals.
Yeah, and I don't really root for injuries at all because that's a tricky game, and it could come back and it could sting you at the worst possible time. So, by no means do we want to sit here and say that we're rooting for injuries or anything like that. But it is important that you take note around the league and say that, some teams are losing key guys. And, Philly got lucky. If you look at what happened with what's his name? Foles.
Nick Foles, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that could have been detrimental to them for the first couple of games of the season, especially if Wentz isn't going to be back. Would they end up rushing Wentz back? So it's amazing, what these injuries, how teams look at them, how they handle them, how they move forward from them. And, you never want to root for them, but take notice because they are important.
Oh, they are important, but I think you said it from the beginning. There's no reason to be playing your stars at this point. Especially veteran stars should not be playing. They've had enough reps. They know how to play. Just keep them healthy. They've had the practices. This game completely scared me because Detroit practiced against these guys all week. So I always thought maybe tempers would flare. They would try to do a little something, do a little something extra. But again, we got out of there luckily healthy. And that was another real big thing for the win. The fact that we put up 30 points on a team that saw us all week, so they knew what we were doing, is pretty exciting. And the fact that this defense is only giving up, I forgot what the stat was today, 14 yards rushing. We're killing the run.
Well, I want to say something because I got to tell you, I've been thinking about it over the course of the last couple of days, and I got to tip my cap to Sherman. I got to give credit where credit is due. I'm very critical. You know me. I'm critical when it comes to this stuff. I look at things a different way. What? I look at things right? I know, surprise, right? But you know me. I look at things a different way. I try to not look at it from negative. The way that the fan base is really looking at it. I try to look at it without these big blue blinders on. And if you're going to be like that, then you got to tip your cap and give credit where credit is due. And I have, for one, have said over and over again, I don't want to see the starters. I don't need to see the starters. I'd rather be healthy. But what they did this week, I thought was genius because it's hard to get a feel on a young quarterback when you're putting that quarterback in with the second and third teams. And when that quarterback is around lesser talent, some of those flaws are going to come through a little more clearly than if they were surrounded by better talent. So how do we see Lauletta and Webb and these guys to the point where, we know what we would get, God forbid something happened to Eli. And I thought it was great that Shermer took notice of it's really hard to get a feel for these kids, or it's hard to get a feel for Webb if I'm looking at him surrounded by second and third team players. But if I put him in the game with my firsts and I see what I would get if the shit hit the fan, I thought was a great move to not let Eli play. We know what Eli is. Let's see Webb with the first team. And I got to tell you, I was impressed by the way the kid played. He made good decisions. He made some good throws. He threw the ball in some tight windows. He showed he was tough. He got up after a hit, converted a big 3rd and 17. I thought Shermer's move to play him with the first was it was a great move. Great. If you're going to play the firsts, let's see the kids with the first.
Absolutely. And Davis Webb actually got to show off his tools. Just like you said, you know what? It'd be awesome if you're putting all these impressive throws, but when you're throwing no offense, second-rate wide receivers that aren't making the plays, they don't look as good. But,
and let's not put it all. I don't want to put it all on the second and third team. Webb played bad.
He played. He was shaky in the first game.
Yeah,
I think he got overhyped. Adrenaline was pumping. Whatever Sherman did before this game to calm him down, good for you. And whatever Davis Webb to calm himself down, you know what? He got the nerves out, which is great. And that pass to Shepard was beautiful.
The third and 17.
Yeah, you just dropped it in.
What a throw. What a throw. He threw him open. The coverage was good. He put the ball in a place only his receiver could get it. The other throw was the bomb downfield where he threw the ball. I think it was to was it the other Shepard? Who I forget the receiver he threw it to.
It was Russell Shepard.
Russell Shepard. Yeah, he threw the bomb where he put the ball into a small window down there. So just great. I was really impressed with the way the kid played. I don't think that I don't really think that there was a negative at all to putting him in with the first teams. I thought it had to be done. I thought it was nice to see him develop, and I think he took a firm grasp of the number 2 quarterback job.
Not only that, but you know what? Who doesn't feel good about Lauletta on top of it? Because this Lauletta kid, all we heard in practice was how garbage he really did look. He was throwing a lot of picks. He was learning. But the thing is, the kid's a gamer. And even with playing with the second and third string players, he's moving around. He knows how to make plays. He's showing a confidence out there and a little bit of a swag that he can get stuff done. And that, it's pretty nice.
I was happy with Lauletta, but if you asked me based off of performance, who I would lean towards and I put out a tweet a couple of days ago because I was really getting annoyed at the Giant fans taking Webb or Lauletta's side because I don't see the downside to both of them playing well. Like I think we should both be
fantastic.
Right. The more quarterbacks you have that are competent, the better you are. If you're going to use one of those guys down the line, great. If you can trade them down the line, one of them, even better. You get some value back. So I think that the better that they play benefits the Giants on so many different levels. But if you're asking me to pick which one I would feel more comfortable with, God forbid something happened to Eli, I think based off what I've seen so far, it would be Webb.
And I'm totally with you with that. The fact is there is no negative, both of them playing well, period. And especially for two guys that wanted them to draft a quarterback at 2, it makes me feel a whole lot better that they did it.
I got news for you, Tim.
It makes me feel a little more confident.
We were very critical, right? But we were critical because we had no clue what Webb is. Like that was my thing. So if they put Webb in for the final 3 games, and we got a performance like we did last week from him in the first game, which was god awful, and then we saw some improvement to what we saw this week against real competition, and then in the third week he was able to sustain that growth and play well in the third game, I think we would have been very comfortable with taking Barkley at 2 at that point. If I would have seen what I saw the other night in Detroit against their ones in the final 3 games of the season, my thought process is completely different going into the draft, is it not?
Absolutely. And not only that, and even with, at least I'm with you as far as the tools. I think Davis Webb has all the tools, from what I've seen. In a total of a game that I've seen him, in the pros, I think he definitely has the tools, and he just got to calm down and let the game come to him. But that's going to be, that's going to come with time.
What's up, Joe? How we doing?
Biggest Marco.
Yes. I just wanted to chime in.
What's up, CEO?
We are all just giving the update. We are all live streaming on almost every platform you can name. I hear you talking about. I can't say for long, but I hear you talking about Webb and Lauletta.
Yeah.
I think the person.
What are your thoughts?
I think the person that should get the major applause is Pat Shurmur.
Right. Bingo.
That's what James exactly said. I mean,
it's like night and day. I was reading some tweets from some of the beat writers, and they're like, the difference between him and McAdoo is when the players are coming off the field, he's like engaged with them, giving them high five, the whole deal, going over everything. And McAdoo was stuck in the cheesesteak factory menu playbook. Never looked up.
I thought, and that's all fine and great. I thought his decision to say, I want to see Webb with the ones, I thought that was genius, because I really think it gave Webb a chance to, showcase his talents. He did what he did against a pretty good defense, against a defensive coordinator that knows what he's doing. I had no complaints, man. And he did it without Barkley, and he did it without Beckham.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be
14 of 20 without Barkley and Beckham?
Do you think it's going to be Webb and Lauletta going forward, like for the rest of the preseason? We know what we got with everyone else.
Well, here's the thing, though.
I would not mind that.
You got to realize that, and honestly, what are you going to get from Eli? How many more years do you need him to be in training camp to see what he's going to be? Mm-hmm. But the thing with this, it was the Detroit practicing with them all week. Eli was already playing against Detroit. Right. So Sherman didn't even need to see anything. He's like, I've already seen him play against Detroit. I don't need to see it during the game.
Wouldn't mind next week if they came out and they said, we don't want to give Eli, 2 weeks off, and he's going to play a little bit. If you gave him 2 or 3 series, that's fine. But if the starters are going to play into the third quarter next week, then I want to see Webb again at some point, either for the second and third quarter with the starters. Because now I want to know, he was awful. Then you're like, okay, this kid has some talent. Where's the middle? Where's the consistency? What am I getting? Am I getting good Webb or am I getting bad Webb? Is he the type of guy that's going to come out one week and look lost, and the next week is going to look like he's got it? Is there going to be a level of inconsistency? Can he repeat the performance that he did last week? And I don't even think that question would be answered coming out of preseason. I just think that it's important for him to continually get the reps, where if he's going to grow, you would think, based off of history, that Eli is not going to miss a lot of time during the season. So this is our chance to see him and his chance to get reps. So I would hope that they would grow on that. I would hope that he would play with the second team. We got a call coming in. I don't know who this is.
I got one other thing to throw out. Throw out.
They can
Do
stay on
you
hold
think
it's
you'll
a weird
see
number.
Lauletta with the ones? You think we're going to see the opposite? Now let's give Lauletta a shot with the ones.
I don't think. I'll be honest with you. I like Lauletta. I don't think he's ready for the ones.
I don't think so either. I think Lauletta, when it all comes down to it, I think he could eventually be a great backup, and he could win you with some games when he has to get thrown in there. But I think Davis Webb could be a starter in the league, at least from what I've seen. I would lean towards Webb more, based off of it looks just like he's further along than Lauletta, and that's not really saying anything bad about Lauletta. It's his first training camp in a new system. So, I think that if they were going to do anything, I think they're going to probably come back with Webb. I think they'll go Manning, Webb, Lauletta. I don't see Lauletta jumping, but hey, you never know. Maybe Shermer does want to see him with the ones, and if that's the case, then throw him in and let the kid play. Caller. Calling in. This is the weirdest number we've ever got a call from. I don't know what this could possibly be.
Prank alert.
I think we can give out this phone number in full, because I don't know if it's legit. 111-111-1111. I'm not even kidding you. That's literally 111-111-1111. Caller from all ones. Where the hell are you calling from?
It's. Can you hear me? Is this me?
You're on the line. Hello. How are you?
Yeah, it's those numbers, because I blocked my number because I want to troll
okay.
y'all. Thank you.
You wanted? All right. Well, that's great. They wanted to troll us. Why would you even? Why even call?
Why not come up with a better troll?
Like, why not? Yeah, if you're gonna troll us, like,
that was the worst I've ever heard.
Yeah, like I don't want to do. I mean, if you're going to call in and prank us, like if you're going to have a plan, have a plot to the call, have a little. I mean, I'm not above getting pranked. I love it. Call in, troll us, bust our chops. At least you're listening, but do it right. Like, come up. Don't call up and say, I blocked my number because I wanted to troll you. Like, get a life. Have a cup of coffee.
I think that person should try again.
Call back. Try harder.
Yeah, that was
try harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to call you back and yell at you if you troll us and do it the right way. So you don't even have to block your number. This is an open, forum for pranks. Like, come with it, but come correct. 443, where you calling from? What do you want to talk about?
Hey, what's up? This is Jordan from Baltimore.
Hey,
what's up, Jordan? How you doing today, buddy? Thanks for calling.
I'm doing good. No problem. How do you guys like the front seven from the Lions game? I thought it was good. They was
you
able to
answer
get
that
pressure.
for us, buddy. Yeah.
They was able to get pressure compared to the Browns game, and with basically using that front four, not blitzing a lot. They was able to get a lot of pressure. So I like that. It's going to help the secondary if they can do it consistently throughout the season. I think that's going to help the secondary a lot. So.
Well, yeah, they need to do whatever they can to help the secondary, in my opinion. And the best way to do that is to get to the quarterback, right? And I think that's the game plan that they're going to bring in. I think when you look at Betcha and his history, it's blitzing, it's scheming, it's coming from all over the place, it's playing aggressive. And I think the Giants are going to try to emulate that when we get to Jacksonville in week 1. I think that they're going to come in waves. But here's the thing. If you're going to do that, like you said, you got to get home. You can't blitz and you can't come and then leave those guys hanging on the back end, because I don't know if our guys are good enough to hang on the back end for 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds. So I think that when you look, I thought Kerry Wynn looks like I'm surprised he hasn't been tested for HGH. He looks amazing.
Well, Kerry Wynn is called the preseason MVP every year.
Jeez.
He always tears it up.
If he can carry it over.
And I love the way this team's run the thing. And the nice part about it, he's not putting in all the blitzing scenes that he's going to put in once the regular season comes in. He's doing pretty vanilla scheme. It's about competition, getting to the ball. The only thing that I've seen so far that I hope gets better, and I put it on the list video, is Ogletree got toasted again this game by Theo Reddick. And I understand, hey, he's the athletic linebacker. I know there's going to be times he's going to get beat because he is a linebacker. Let's be honest. But you know what? It's 2 weeks in a row that he's gotten toasted, and he's the one I wasn't even worried about.
Well, I think that, going into the season, I was worried about the coverage. Like, I was worried about how these linebackers were going to cover. I think that if you're an offensive coordinator and you're going in against this Giants team, I think that you're going to look at them and say, okay, if we just line up straight, we're going to probably get beat, right? They're going to come and, they got some talent and they can cause problems. So how can I reverse that? How can I cause problems for them? Well, here's what I could do. I could spread them out and force their linebackers to have to cover my tight ends and my backs. And when you do that, you put guys, out on Main Street a little bit. And that's when that stuff happens. So it's going to be really interesting how Betcha combats that stuff to protect the defense once we get into the regular season and teams are game planning and scheming and looking for ways to, exploit, your weaknesses. And that's going to be huge to see how, that Betcha puts those game plans together and how he can disguise things to keep Ogletree out of those situations.
And you know what? As we're talking about the linebackers, I want to give a little props out to Ray Armstrong. Has played well. And
yes.
It makes me feel a lot better having that third inside linebacker. Behind B.J. Goodson and Ogletree. Yep.
Look who's calling back. Unbelievable. Here they come. Trickster. You're going to come correct, or what are you going to do?
Fucker, motherfucking, fucking shit, fucking shit, fucking.
That's not good, bro.
Wow.
Like, you got to do better. You got to do better. Like, you can't just call up and curse. Like, have a plot. Like, have a theme to your call. Anyone can call up and curse and just say motherfucker, fuck, motherfucker. What? What is wrong with these millennials today? What is wrong with these kids? Maybe we need to bring bullying back. I think we need to bring bullying back.
You know what? When we were back in the day, though, we had pranking down to a science because we didn't have caller ID, so you couldn't catch us. So we pranked. These kids don't know what that is nowadays.
No, these kids they're amazing. Fuck, motherfucker. I mean, what? I mean, come. It's not even funny. Like, make us laugh a little bit, right?
It's Sunday, guys. We're actually in a good mood. Let's.
Yeah, I don't need you to bring me down, calling from your fake number, trying to curse us out. Jesus, get a life. Should you be doing a fantasy draft or something? God, make your time productive.
Exactly. It's Sunday. What are you doing? It's SummerSlam Sunday, actually.
Oh, SummerSlam Sunday. 917, where you calling from?
Yeah.
What you want to talk about? Holla at your boys.
What's up? How are you guys enjoying being trolled by an edgy 9-year-old?
Hold on. You're gonna get trolled with us. They're calling. Hold on. They're calling back in, Ned. Hold on for a second. Let's do this again. Potty mouth.
Yes,
What's up?
Yes, hello. Yes, hello. My name is Robin Williams. I'm CEO of the National Laboratory
Robin
Meeting.
Williams.
You need to go.
Robin Williams.
Go to
You're really gonna do that?
You're
gonna do the Robin Williams thing? You're gonna make fun of Robin Williams?
16 naked
Poor
cowboys
dead man.
and the 15 zebras. This is your order for the naked cowboys.
Go back.
Fucking
what are
naked
you
cowboys,
talking about?
You fucking dick.
Are you inbred?
Fucking shit.
Are you inbred? You sound inbred. Is your dad your
fucking
cousin?
Shit. Just let me hang up
and your
the
mom
phone,
like
I'll
his
call you back.
sister?
Is this little kid trying to do a stern little prank?
Concerned with the family dynamic there.
I think he thinks he's doing like a prank call and it's not working.
Robin Williams. No, why would Robin Williams? What does Robin Williams have to do with that? Tim, you should have told him it's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault that you're inbred. Blame your parents.
So Ned, what's going on?
So, given that you guys are doing a fantasy football episode, do you guys have the intern on that absolutely destroyed you?
First of all, he didn't destroy us. Second of all, even the sun shines on a dog ass every now and again. And third of all, no, Todd is not on the show.
Yeah, you know what? You got lucky. That's all it was. Good
917. We got another 917 calling in. 917. What's up? Where you calling from? What do you want to talk about?
What's up, guys? It's Ryan.
What's up, Ryan?
I just heard that call, so yeah. That was, yeah.
This is what happens on Sundays, guys.
Did you guys see that throw by Webb to Russell Shepard?
Yeah.
That was an amazing throw. That was the best throw.
He was just dropping balls in buckets. That's what, and he is what we say. What is it? A window thrower?
Window thrower. Yes, he's a window thrower. Hey, listen, I thought the most impressive thing about Webb, the thing that made me sit up and take notice, was the play that he got hit pretty hard. Rush was coming straight at him. He gets hit. He tries to get rid of the ball. They call it a fumble initially. It gets ran into the end zone. He took a pretty hard shot. They get the reversal, and then the 3rd and 17 to Sterling Shepard. That's what I wanted to see last year. That's why I was screaming for this kid to play last year. I didn't care about the talent around him. I didn't care about the offensive line. I wanted to see him take a beating because I want to see if that quarterback can take a beating and get up and then make a throw. And that's what he showed me. And I thought the bomb was a nice play, but he had protection. The pocket on the play on the 3rd and 17, the pocket breaks down to the right a little bit. He has to step to the left. Boom. He makes the nice throw. That was the play for me that I was like, wow, this kid might have some talent here.
How about the fact that the person who made the pressure was Devin Kennard?
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Who was beating Eric Flowers. But actually, Omeme actually got beat as well. So, you know what? I wasn't really happy with that play, but mistakes are going to happen on preseason. So you know what? Get the mistakes out, learn from them, do what you got to do. But I did find it funny that Devin Kennard was the one that made the play.
I want to get into some fantasy stuff, but first, I would like to discuss Jonathan Stewart.
You know what? That's exactly where I wanted to go. But on the other side of the coin as well. I almost wanted to talk Wayne Gallman as well, because as far as I'm concerned, Wayne Gallman's been the MVP of the preseason.
Well, I think two of them. I think the two of them. I think both of those guys are the same conversation. So, I think Stewart and Gallman are tied together right now. Here's my thing. I got into it with a couple of Giant fans yesterday. Surprise. I got into it with a couple of Giant fans yesterday who are telling me that Stewart has to be on this team because of Barkley. And, Tim, I don't get it. I don't understand why you have to pay a 30-plus-year-old running back close to $4 million, 3.95 something against the cap this year, for a guy that's yards per carry has dropped every year since 2014, for a guy that was tops in the league in fumbles last year, for a guy that when he comes into the game, you know it's a running play or he's blocking because he brings no value via the passing game. So are we paying this guy $4 million just to be Barkley's tutor? And here's my thing. Does a rookie running back that's taken number 2 that has his head on straight need a tutor? I got told yesterday that running back was one of the hardest positions to come into the NFL and play. I think these people are fucking nuts. Running back historically is one of the easiest positions to come in and play as a rookie. That's why you see so many rookies coming in as running backs and playing well right off the bat. Hunt, Kamara, year after year after year, there's these rookie running backs that blow up. Why? Because you take the ball and you fucking run.
And the funny thing is the questions that you just asked were exactly the ones that I asked on the video that we put out yesterday. Was, from what I've seen in the preseason so far, Jonathan Stewart has gained maybe a total of 4 yards, and the other running backs are completely outplaying them, from Wayne Gallman to Robert Martin to Jalen Simmons, who, thanks God, Jalen Simmons just had a concussion. He wasn't hurt as bad as I thought he was. So he's still out there. And the fact is, those guys are playing special teams on top of it, all 3 of them. Jonathan Stewart's not bringing anything in the special teams. I don't know how Jonathan Stewart makes this team. And over just being a locker room influence. Now, is he that much of an influence over Saquon Barkley? I think Saquon Barkley had his head on straight coming in. And, from what I have heard is Saquon Barkley has literally asked every veteran he can and picks everybody's brain. So I don't necessarily think he needs Jonathan Stewart there. So, you know what? I was fine with Jonathan Stewart coming in, but he's getting outplayed, and guess what? It might be time. I don't see how he makes his team. I really just don't.
No, I'm with you, and I would rather give a young kid a chance than right.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly. You're gonna save money. You're gonna save money. They're gonna be hungrier. It's
well. Here's the thing, right? I saw yesterday that. And this is a major criticism I have of Gettleman. If you cut Stewart, you're only saving $600,000 versus the cap.
Yeah,
he's locked in.
I saw $750, but
he's locked in on the roster.
And if that's the case, it's I don't really care. I just don't want to play to somebody. It's good.
Well, if it costs us a young kid like Rob Martin, I do care.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, at this point, from what I've seen, I think Jalen Simmons could go to the practice squad without getting stolen. Robert Martin, I don't know. So I don't know if he can go to practice squad without getting stolen.
No, I think that Martin's intriguing. I like the way that kid runs. somebody came at me yesterday on Facebook and was like, "Oh yeah, Rob Martin, you like him now after this game?" And I had to go back and find fucking tweets from like 3 weeks ago when we were ramping him up on the show, saying, "Watch out for this kid, one to watch." Right before preseason started. There were some names we were given, some of the back names on the roster of kids to watch. He was one of them. Like the way he runs. I said after the first preseason game, he reminded me a little of Ahmad Bradshaw, the way he was running the ball. I like him. And if you're telling me that, hey, we can give the job to a 30-plus-year-old running back or a young kid and stash him on the roster, I'd rather the young kid that may have some upside, God forbid, or something, as opposed to a guy that's just going to run the ball into the back of the line and get you 2 yards maybe. I just don't see the value.
How many do you think we're going to keep? How many do you think we're going to keep on the roster? Obviously Saquon. Obviously Gallman. And then are we going to go 3 or 4?
I would hope that one of the 3 or 4 at the most. 4 at the most. I can't see them keeping more than 4. You would think that the fourth guy is going to have to provide a lot of special teams value, but I don't know how much special teams value Martin or Simmons would garner. I don't know that they can play that role.
I don't know how much their special teams are playing now, but Jonathan Stewart's not playing any special teams.
No, that's my thing. I mean, the only value that he has, it's not even like he can do anything else. And he can't play running back anymore, so what the fuck is he doing on the roster? I got huge problems. I had problems with that signing from day one. I didn't get it. I will never get it. I thought that he was a waste last year in Carolina. Just don't understand it whatsoever. But let's, Tim, we're going to go probably for an hour, so we've got around maybe 20, 25 minutes left. I don't want to take up everybody's Sunday, but I want to get to some fantasy stuff because it's the most wonderful time of the year. We're getting into some fantasy football. I just had another draft last night that I did. I got my big draft on September 2nd. So between now and then, a lot of research, a lot of stuff going on. I wanted to give our fans a couple of names to watch as they go through the rounds here, right? So if you're drafting, you don't know where you're drafting, rounds 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to throw out some names that maybe you want to look at that can help you out during the course of your season, guys that we expect some big things from. We're going to give you some sleeper names as well. Tim, I want to go through my little list that I have here on some certain guys and get your thoughts on them. I know you play as well. So we'll start here in round 1. So I'm not going to give you – we know round 1 you could sit there with your rankings and say, okay, it's Bell, it's Gurley, it's DJ, it's Barkley, it's Antonio Brown. Who are some of the other names in round 1 that you can target maybe later on in round 1 and get some huge value out of? So I got 2 names here, Tim, and I want to get your thoughts out of them. First one I'm going to give you is a wide receiver, not a Giant. Hopkins.
I agree.
Over in
Absolutely.
Houston.
Absolutely.
With Deshaun Watson coming back. Yeah, man. If you look at his numbers with Watson playing last year, and, Hopkins, what did he lead the league in touchdowns last year? And red zone targets. When you look at the ability that Watson has coming in, I think Hopkins is a steal in the late first round. I've seen Beckham go before him. I have seen Julio go before him, and I don't understand it. I think that if you're sitting back at 6, 7, 8, and 9 in this draft, and you're drafting in your fantasy league, Hopkins becomes a steal for you. Target him in the late first round from 6 through 10 if you're in a 10-team league, and I think you get big value here. The other guy, running back, that I think can take this job and run with it, Mark Ingram suspended for 4 games. Kamara last year in limited touches, most big plays in the league at running back. Alvin Kamara, New Orleans. What are your thoughts on him, Tim?
See, here's my thing with Kamara is I don't know if he can be a ground and pound kind of running back, someone that can get carry after carry after carry. That's what he's going to have to prove to me. But he is on a New Orleans Saints offense. He's going to score points. So you definitely have to take him into consideration. You always got to take that consideration of how many points are getting scored, and especially the way New Orleans runs their offense now, they're a run-first team. That's why Drew Brees is dropping in the rankings where, Kamara should be rising.
Yeah, I think that Kamara is very interesting because I have the same worry where can he run through the tackles? But the thing I take solid, first of all, you're looking at a pick that's maybe 7, 8, 9, maybe 10, the last pick of the 10th round, depending on how he may go.
You know what makes me bring up a guy? Where would you put? Would you take Kamara over Devontae Freeman?
Yes, I would.
The only reason I say that is, Devontae Freeman's definitely a great running back on the Atlanta team that's pretty stacked. And
I like Freeman, but I think that Kamara, if you go back and you look at Kamara's year last year and the way he was used in that offense, I think it's going to be very telling through the first 4 games to see how he's used. I think that this kid's going to have a phenomenal year. 2 things about him. His ability to catch the ball and Sean Payton. And I think if you're in a half-point PPR, if you're in a full-point PPR, and you're sitting there in 7, 8, and 9, and the other running backs are off the board, and you're looking at maybe some wide receivers there, and you value the running back position that much, I think Kamara would be a steal for you. I think he'll get more touches this year. I think Peyton will look out for him and make sure that he's not being abused so that they can use him throughout the course of their season. And I think that he's going to be a huge part of it. And his ability to break big plays, when per touches, the amount of big plays he had was tops in the league. And I think that, plus New Orleans, gives you great value at the end of the first round for a guy like Alvin Kamara. Second round, I want to give you a couple of running backs where, let's say you're sitting at the end of the first round and Kamara's off the board, the other running backs, it's a running back heavy draft in the first round. You get 6 running backs taken off the board, late first round pick, those receivers start coming off, and you took one of those receivers at 7, 8, 9, and 10, and now you're looking for a running back on the swing side to maybe balance out your roster a little bit through 2 rounds. 2 names I'm going to give you that you should focus on if you're looking for running backs in that second round. First one, Dalvin Cook out of Minnesota. Second one, Melvin Gordon out of San Diego. I got big things for both of these guys this season. Tim, what are your thoughts on both of those guys in round 2, maybe?
I love the Dalvin Cook pick. He's somebody that I think, the casual fan forgets about, and you probably easily get him in the second round where he's a first-round talent. Melvin Gordon.
Yes. I'm high on Melvin this year.
I know you're high on Melvin, and I see why. I just he's not consistent enough for me. I'm not. He scares me a little bit as far as taking him second round. It's one of those guys. Who was I thinking of? I had a guy in mind. I just can't think of him off the top of my head right now.
Well, here's my thing about Melvin.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's my thing about Melvin Gordon is there's nobody else there to compete with him. Like, so if you took a wide receiver, in the first, right?
Here's the guy. Here's the guy, James. Who would you take? Justin Howard or Melvin Gordon?
Melvin Gordon. And here's why I would take Melvin Gordon. Now, I like Jordan Howard this year, but here's my thing is, like, to me, it's not about who you're taking, it's where you're taking them.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not about the names, it's about the value as opposed to where you're taking them throughout the course of the draft. So if you're in a money league, if you're in a big league, and you do some drafts and some mock drafts to get you ready, then you know that Melvin Gordon's going in the second round, and you know that Jordan Howard's probably going in the third. I've seen him go off the board in the fourth. So if you're reaching for that guy in the second round, knowing that you can get him in the third, so let's say hypothetically, Tim, you're sitting at the back end. You're sitting at the back end of the first round in your draft, and you end up with a Julio Jones, Hopkins, Odell Beckham Jr. with your first round pick. And you came back in the second round, and you know that you value running backs, and you came back in the second round, and you landed Cook or you landed Melvin Gordon, who that's where he's going, somewhere in that second round. And I think the reason that I put Gordon over a guy like Howard is very simply the quarterback. So,
true,
like,
but from what
I worry about Mitch. If you give me, see, a lot of times with these guys, I'll take the guy with the better quarterback than I would with the guy with the worst quarterback. For example, would you take Jamal Adams, or let's say a guy who – I'll give you another guy on the Bears. So, Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Phenomenal talent. And I won't even put who did I just say? Who did I say before that? The wide receiver.
You were talking about Devontae Adams.
Yeah. I don't take Adams.
Adams, but
Jamal. All right, that's who I thought. Okay, you knew who I was talking about, right? So take So let's take. I'm trying to think. So let's take Allen Robinson, and I'm trying to get a wide receiver.
I'm with you.
All right,
as far as Devontae
Doug
Adams,
Baldwin.
I would absolutely, yeah.
So those are both guys that are going late third, fourth round, right? But if you told me, I'm taking Doug. You're taking Doug. Now, maybe talent-wise, Allen Robinson has a ton more talent than Doug Baldwin, but
you don't know what you're getting.
I trust Russell Wilson a lot more than Mitchell Trubisky. So
true.
I look at
the
it.
Only thing with the running backs, like when they're going to run the ball, not only run the ball, but from what I've heard, Jordan Howard is getting a lot of dump offs. They're going to use him a lot, just because the kind of offense they're running now.
But
so
he also has Tariq Cohen.
True.
So when I look at those factors, when I look at the quarterback, when I look at Tariq Cohen, then it moves Jordan Howard down a little bit for me as opposed to a Melvin Gordon when I know that Gordon's going to take all of the carries. He's going to be the goal line back. He's going to be the one catch. He's going to be featured. And while Jordan may be featured in some packages, he's going to come out. Tariq Cohen's going to come in certain plays. Tariq Cohen's going to spell him on certain drives. And the quarterback play is questionable. So that puts a guy like Melvin Gordon above a guy like Jordan Howard for me when it comes to running backs and how I draft and how I rank my running backs throughout the course of fantasy season. Let's move down to round 3 real quick. A couple of guys to keep an eye on that are dropping into round 3. I want to get your thoughts on one guy that I think is a steal in the 3rd round, Rob Gronkowski. I think that a lot of people are sleeping on Gronk this year with all the mess that's coming out of New England. He's dropping into the 3rd round. If your goal is to get one of the top players in the league at every position, and you start your draft off with a wide receiver in the 1st round, a Dalvin Cook in the 2nd, and you could grab Gronk in round 3, Tim, Gronk, huge matchup nightmare, still has Brady, PPR beast. Injury's always a concern, but to me, it's 3rd round value.
Right, injuries are the
it's
problem.
3rd round value.
It's you eat Gronk, and you're pumped up for half the season. Then he gets injured. Then you might not even have him the rest of the season.
Well, here's my thing about Gronk this year is he was pretty healthy last year.
I'd rather take Travis Kelce over Gronkowski.
Well, I got a sleeper for you, which is really funny because the sleeper I have is actually on one of the teams that I just bashed. So we'll get to a tight end sleeper a little later on. But I got Gronk where if you can get him in the 3rd round, great value there. Here's the other guy. Just released yesterday. You know who I'm going to say, Timmy. He's back. He's not able to practice right away until the NFL declares him back in. But if you can get this guy in the 3rd round, I've even seen him going in the 4th. I think that his ADP is about to go up now with the release that he's coming back. Josh Gordon. Top 5 talent, in my opinion, in the NFL at wide receiver position. I think the quarterback play in Cleveland is going to be a lot better. Man, oh man, if you can get Josh Gordon.
I'm with you to a point. As far as you want to grab Josh Gordon as a flyer later, sure. I do not. I want my first 4 to 5 picks to be my consistent guys. I don't want to take a risk-reward guy like Josh Gordon. Especially when was the last time he actually played a full season? 2013?
Do you know what round
14?
I'm getting him in my draft, in my money league?
What round?
I get to keep him, right? So last year, somebody took a flyer on him and drafted him in round 15, right?
Okay.
In our league, you can keep guys that you trade for or acquired through free agency. And if you decide to keep them, if they were drafted, then it's a 2-round penalty for where you have to keep them. I get Josh Gordon in round 13 this season.
See, that's fine.
How about that for value?
Yeah, that's value because that's a risk reward. That's a guy you almost put a flyer on. But I do not agree with taking him in the first 5 rounds. I would not. I don't agree with that.
Well, that's where he's going. And I think the thing with Gordon that gets everybody salivating at the mouth is talent-wise, you could probably make a case that he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. Now, head-wise, we have to see where he is. Supposedly, the rumors coming out of Cleveland, there's 2 rumors. 1, he's going through some child support stuff that looks like it'll be cleared up pretty soon. 2, he didn't want to be around hard knocks. And I got news for you. That at first, when I heard about this Josh Gordon thing, that he was leaving and he was thinking about that he was not with the team, it was terrifying. I've always been a fan of the guy. I've always wished him well. I thought that he was in trouble again. If he made the decision that he didn't want to be around hard knocks and he stepped away from that, tip of the cap to him for recognizing that was going to be difficult, putting himself in a position to succeed like he did not do in the past, and hopefully it works out for the best for him. But if you can get him in, let's say, round late 3 or round 4, the upside there and with the talent that he's going to bring in, with the upgrade in quarterback play, with Landry being on the field so that you cannot just focus all your attention on him. You saw the numbers he put up with guys like Whedon and Campbell and other guys like that. He can be a huge play for you as you get to your fantasy season. Round 4, couple of guys I want to throw out there. So Tim, one guy that I'm reaching for in round 4. 2 guys that I've noticed have dropped to round 4 that I want to get some thoughts on. 2 guys that have dropped to round 4. First one, Deshaun Watson. Shocked. I think that if you look at the numbers last year when he was in and he played, with his ability to make plays with his legs, the receivers that he has around him, his knack for big plays, Deshaun Watson in the 4th round, man, you're getting a steal where if he's right, he could be the top-scoring quarterback in all of fantasy this year.
And you could be right. The thing is, and you just like you said, it would be a reach because the way this year is and the way all these quarterbacks are falling, and everybody's putting up stats because just the rule changes. Everybody puts up almost 300 yards passing. Whether it's garbage time, it all counts. It doesn't make a difference.
You know what?
So you know what? You can grab somebody in the 6th, 7th round that's probably going to put up comparable stats to somebody you might grab in the 4th.
Well, here's my thing, right, is I hate running quarterbacks. Like, I do not like them when it comes to the Giants. But when it comes to fantasy football, if I got a guy that I know that's going to be able to grab 40 to 50 yards on the ground or, get in the end zone with his feet and maybe, make a play out of nothing, that ends up, bumping up your fantasy points, man, I mean, that is absolutely huge. And I see quarterbacks aren't going till around 4 or so. The first ones coming off the board are Rodgers and Brady. So if you're sitting back there in round 4 and you see somebody take a Rodgers and you see somebody take a Brady and you know that quarterback run is coming, do not hesitate. He is going to reap rewards for you down the line. You get a quarterback that you know is going to probably be top 5 weekly when it comes to putting up fantasy points if he's healthy. Reports are he's moving around fine. There's no concerns from the ACL. It was a clean ACL rip, so everything is good to go there. He's progressed well. I think that there's a big season coming in. And the other thing for him is the weapons around him. You look at Fuller, you look at Hopkins, you look at some of the guys around him. He has some talent there that he could play with.
Yeah, and I like your thinking with Watson. The fact was, when he was in last year, if he projected out the whole season and didn't get hurt, he would have been the all-time fantasy scorer.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're thinking is coming from.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to take
I would hold off to the 6th, 7th round and grab a quarterback.
Well, I completely respect.
I have no problem waiting to get like a guy like Rivers or something like that.
No, I don't either. I mean, I don't. If your strategy is that you're going to take good players throughout the course of the draft and you're not going to get a quarterback until late, tip of the cap. I have no problem with that strategy. But if you're sitting there in round 3 and you went in round 4 and you end up with 3 beasts, let's say you took a Kamara or a Hopkins or a Dalvin Cook and a Gronk, and you got a beast wide receiver and a beast running back and a beast tight end, then you're sitting there in round 4 and you got a chance to go for a juggernaut and putting maybe the top scoring fantasy QB in the NFL with 3 other all-stars that fill up the roster at tight end. I mean, man, you put yourself in a really good position moving forward. Don't be afraid to pull the trigger on Deshaun Watson. Another guy I'm seeing drop into the 4th round. Now, I'm a fan of his, but the situation he is, this is one of those things where it's not about the name, Tim. It's more about where you're getting him, right? So I was doing a draft the other day, and rounds 1 through 3, I'm sitting there, and the way it fell, I ended up taking 2 wide receivers, and then I ended up taking a running back in round 3. I think it was Jordan Howard. I get to round 4, and LaShawn McCoy is sitting there. Now,
I knew exactly who you were talking about. Exactly who you were talking about. He's dropping because everybody thinks something's going to happen with, the whole legal stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know that anything is. And
I don't think
when you're looking at it right now, considering the reports aren't saying that there's anything detrimental coming, usually this stuff gets out. Now, who knows what can happen in the next 2 weeks? But if you're sitting there in round 4, it's very rare that you get a chance to get a bell cow running back in that 4th round that has a history like LaShawn McCoy. What's up?
He should be a first-round running back. He should be a first-round running back.
Right? I mean, when you look at his numbers, the fact that he may lead the team in rushing yards and, targets, and there's not a lot. I mean, you got Kelvin Benjamin, but when you look at it, it's going to go through McCoy. Now, there's always a concern with the injuries and stuff like that, but when you're looking at 4th round value, man, you can't go wrong taking a guy like McCoy in the 4th round.
Absolutely not. He's the whole offense of Buffalo. He's the whole offense. The whole team runs through him. I mean, that's all McDermott wants to do in Buffalo is run the ball. It basically, save with the ball and let the defense win.
I'm going to give you a name now. Last year, I don't know if you remember, but last year I called Kareem Hunt. I loved him. I was all over him. And in my draft, I took him with the first pick in the 4th round. I fell in love with him completely, and I ended up hitting pay dirt. I have another guy this year that I'm reaching for in the 4th round that I think is going to be one of these guys that blows up on the scene. Royce Freeman from Denver.
How did I know you were going to say that? But it's no, because I've listened to you, and I know you know your shit. No, Royce Freeman is definitely one of the ones that because he's in Denver. I mean, let's be honest. He's in a good situation. I definitely think he's a rookie running back that can definitely do something. And he's got the talent to put up there. I forgot who the backup is.
It's Booker. It's Devontae Booker.
And Booker's had a couple years to finally steal that job. He never has. So you know what?
And that's why I'm looking at it where if you go, let's say the draft breaks for you where, you're in a position where you didn't take a running back in the first 3 rounds because you didn't feel the value.
I know you're taking him last 4th. I give you credit for taking him in the 4th round. But that's a guy I think you could wait till almost 7th, 8th round because I don't think people will even know who even try to get him.
Well, I think as you get closer to the season, because he scored again last night, and I think that when you get closer to the season in the next couple of weeks and you realize that Devontae Booker is the guy that's in front of him, and I read yesterday that he's slowly taking over the job and his play, if you look in the preseason, has spoken to it, and it looks like they want to get it to him. I mean, man, a guy like Freeman could end up paying huge for you. If you're in a position where you took maybe wide receiver, quarterback, or tight end, if you end up with Gronk and you had 2 wide receivers and you're saying to yourself in the 4th round, I really need a running back, you could end up with a steal like Royce Freeman and ends up being a bell cow, ends up scoring double-digit touchdowns for you and maybe ends up, challenging Hunt and Kamara as this year is one of the rookies to watch moving forward. So I really like Freeman. He's a big back. He's got some speed. He's elusive. He's going to be the goal line back, it looks like, as well. He should be fed. If you can get your hands on Royce Freeman, do it. Don't hesitate. I want to jump now, Tim. I want to go into a couple of sleepers.
I'll give you another running back.
Give me another one. Give me another running back. Everybody
Ronald
needs
Jones.
running backs, so give me another running back.
Ronald Jones in Tampa. The rookie running back.
I got some concerns with. Well, I think that's going to be more of a committee. I don't see Peyton going anywhere, but I do like that kid's talent.
The thing is, it's another one of those teams that has more talent than the rest of them, and I think he can steer. He can pull away as far as grabbing it. It might take a couple weeks, but he's going to end up pulling away with that starting job and have it completely his. Especially with Doug Martin and also being out there. And a wide receiver I'll give you another wide receiver that is slipping, but I think he's going to have a comeback year. I think he was off last year for whatever reason. Amari Cooper should be up there on the route. He's going to have a big year this year.
Yes, I'm totally agree with you there. Cooper is one of the guys on my board that I'm trying to get a hold of in as many drafts as I can. One, because, again, it's not where not the guy, but where you take him. And when you look at what you can get from Cooper, production-wise, from where he's being, going 7th, 8th round, could end up being a steal for you, grabbing a guy like Cooper who should be featured in Gruden's offense. In times where he gets over 8 targets per game, I think he averages something like 17 fantasy points per game. If you can get a hold of him late, take a shot on a guy like Amari Cooper.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm totally there with you. Now, one situation who do you think the number one's going to be in Baltimore?
In where?
In Baltimore. Is it going to be Crabtree? Or is it going to be, I'm blanking on the guy's name right off the top of my head. I don't have it in front of me. Who's going to be the number one wide receiver in Baltimore?
I would think that they would try to make it Crabtree, but I don't know. I don't like that situation, to be honest with you. Unless Lamar Jackson's in there, I would probably stay away from everybody.
Yeah, first of all, I don't trust Flacco anyway. He screwed me in so many fantasy years by me even touching any of his players. I don't like that team. There's certain teams I stay away from.
Yeah, certain teams where I just don't want anything to do with them. They're one of those teams. I'm just not interested in taking a shot on that guy. Too many things can go wrong. Want to give you a couple of sleepers and see how you feel about these names. I'm going to give you 2 wide receivers. I'm going to give you a running back. I'm going to give you a tight end that I think that could pay dividends late for you, and some names to keep an eye on this year. First, we'll go with the wide receivers. Josh Dotson in Washington.
Talent-wise, should finally be coming into his own. I've heard, and he is the number one.
Yeah.
And it's Alex Smith. I trust Alex Smith a little more than I trust Kirk Cousins. But and when I see their running backs are going down, I think that's a great pick because the fact is I think they're going to pass a lot more than they wanted to.
Yeah, I think that he's being, from what you read, he's playing well. He's a first-round pick, so you know that they want to get him the football. He played well to close out the year last year, which I think is always a positive. You actually saw him do it. He produced down the stretch. The offense should go through him pass-wise. He's going to be the red zone guy. And for where he's going in double-digit rounds, it could be an absolute steal. Here's another wide receiver that I think just is not going as high as he should, and I think the value at the year end is going to be ridiculous as to what he can bring. How about Cam Meredith in New Orleans?
You know what? It's New Orleans. You know he's a number 2. Michael Thomas is number 1. Michael Thomas is number 1 by far.
Hands down.
And the thing is, and with later in the season when Mark Ingram comes back, and New Orleans is going to be more of a running team. What they're even going to be in the beginning. Cameron Meredith steal you some points, sure, every week in there. I can't see Cam Meredith, winning in a whole lot of games consistently.
No, but if you're looking for, so if it's a guy that you're getting in rounds 10 and back, what you're looking for is a guy that you have upside with and a good offense, a guy that has talent that was never in an offense that can fully display those talents. And the thing that's intriguing to me is just that, the fact that there is Kamara and there is Ingram and there is Michael Thomas, which is going to give him one-on-ones all over the field. And then you look at the quarterback and you say, okay, while he may not be throwing for as many yards as he did, I'm not taking Breeze. He still threw for 4,300 yards last year. His touchdowns dipped, which you would assume is a fluke and that they may go up. I think Cameron Meredith gives you great value in those double-digit rounds where you can get a guy that's going to consistently maybe catch 6 or 7 balls per week. Hopefully he finds the end zone. Maybe you get a big play out of him. But if you're in a PPR league and you can find a guy that's getting 6 catches per week, and I think that's not a far-fetched thing when you look at Cam Meredith in that offense, how can you go wrong from a guy that may give you double-digit fantasy points on a weekly basis?
And I totally get your thinking on it. I'm going to ask you this. As far as your strategy as a fantasy player, how do you feel about taking a running back and wide receiver that are on the same team in your starting lineup?
It depends. Who's the running back and who's the wide receiver?
Well, the reason I was thinking about it, let's say Kamara and Meredith.
I would not have a problem depending on the matchup starting them. Now, every week I would have Kamara in my lineup. So that's a no-brainer. But if you told me that New Orleans was playing at home against Tampa and I had a shot to maybe put Meredith into a flex spot based on the matchup, I think it's a good play. Also, if you're in bye weeks, if you had a couple of injuries where you needed a wide receiver, he's a guy that I'm not saying that you're going to take this guy in round 10 or 11 and then you're going to start him every week. If you're taking him in 10 or 11, he's on your bench. So what are you looking for on your bench? You're looking for a guy that you can plug in matchups. You're looking for a guy where if you get an injury that you can plug in. And you're looking for a guy that's going to be productive. I think he fits all 3 of those pegs because of the offense that he's in. And you're getting him late. So you're not wasting a 7th-round pick on him. You're not taking Cameron Meredith and saying, okay, I'm going to plug him in every week. But when you look at all the other things around him, you should be productive.
How about this for our fellow Giants fans out there? And I'm sure plenty of them have done this in their little fantasy leagues already. Grabbing Saquon and Odell.
Well, I don't know how you would do that. If you're doing that, then the other GMs in the league need to be tested for their IQs, because I don't know how you would be able to get Saquon, who's probably going in the top 7 or 8. And then turn around and get Beckham. That means Beckham would have to last until pick 14 or 15, and I just don't see how conceivably that can happen. If you're telling me now, okay, so let's say I draft Antonio Brown in round 1, I come back in round 2 and draft Dalvin Cook, and now I'm sitting there round 3 and I have Adam Thielen or Stephon Diggs on the board, I would have no problem playing Cook and Thielen or Diggs in the same lineup. No problem.
Okay.
See, to me, like if I look at that offense like on any given Sunday, and I said, okay, I don't think Thielen takes away from Cook. I don't think Diggs takes away from Cook. Now, I would even go where if you ended up taking, like, let's say I have the swing pick in round 3 and 4, and I play with flex positions, and I got 2 flex spots, and I could. Diggs and Thielen, I'd play them both together because I think that you're going to get one big week from a guy and the other guy may give you 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown, which means both of them are productive.
And the only thing that ever scared me about doing all that is literally, let's say you did that with Minnesota. You had all those guys in there. One shitty week from Minnesota could shut down your whole damn team.
You're right, but you're betting on the fact that their offense is so when it comes to that, though, to me it depends on the offense. Like if you're telling me that I had another guy I'm going to throw out there in a little bit, plays for the Patriots. You're telling me I have Gronk, this player, and Edelman on a roster, and based on they're playing the Jets in Week 14, I'm finding a way to get all three of these guys into my roster. Now, they may shit the bed, but, the other guys I may have may shit the bed. It's fantasy. It's a roll of the dice anyway. But you're playing the percentages of the better offense is going to move the ball, and if you're getting guys that have looks, that get the looks based off of the matchup, it's hard, and it's hard. I don't really let that stuff play into it. I look at who they're playing, when they're playing them, how they're playing, and if I end up playing two guys from the same team, so be it. I'm going to give you a tight end before I get to my New England running back. I actually have two New England running backs, but I'm going to give you my tight end first. And it's funny because this guy comes from a team that I'm not high on. I hate the quarterback, but I think that he has some talent, and I think that this quarterback probably won't be able to get the ball downfield or to the outside too well, but I think in between the hashes, he's going to have a lot of opportunities. They have a strong running game, and when any team has a strong running game, play action, tight end's the best player for a young quarterback. Trey Burton in Chicago going in the late rounds, 10, 11, 12. If you don't like any of the tight ends early and you're going to wait on a tight end, a guy like Burton I think could be primed for a breakout season this year where he could catch 70-plus balls, maybe around 800 yards, maybe get to around 6 or 7 touchdowns. What are you feeling on Trey Burton, Tim? And do you have any other maybe late-round tight ends that you could throw out there for some of the people listening?
As far as Trey Burton, he's definitely one that intrigues me. I was listening to one of the preseason games, and it was a Philly announcer, and he almost made fun of the fact that Trey Burton got as much money as he did. The fact was he's never been a starter.
Never.
He's never been a starter, so it's definitely a wild card taking him. Now, if he's your second tight end, sure, I say, why not roll the dice and see what he can do? But if you're counting him on being your number one tight end, and that's the only tight end you grabbed,
I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't recommend taking him as your hell. And
I don't know how much I trust Trubisky to be putting up those kind of stats to where I can consistently get some out of Trey Burton.
I don't blame you there. I'm going more on the upside. I think he has some talent. I think that that tight end is going to be big for them. You got to also look at who's the offensive coordinator there. Nagy. Who did Nagy have? Kelsey. How did they use Kelsey all over the field? Now, am I saying Trey Burton is Kelsey? No. But I am saying that he's going to run a lot of those routes. They're going to try to use him in that capability, and it could mean that he has a productive fantasy season. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up contributing and having a good year fantasy-wise. And, again, I think the value you're getting him is really late because no one knows what to expect from him. No one knows if he's going to be productive. No one really likes that offense when it comes to throwing the ball. So if you can sit there late, or if you get a Gronk early in the third or fourth round, and now it's round 11 or 12, and you're saying, okay, I need some insurance on Gronk, and you're looking at guys like Trey Burton, or you're looking at guys like Greg Kittle, or you're looking at guys like one guy that's going undrafted, which I'm in shock, Tim. He's going undrafted, Vance McDonald.
Why?
I don't know.
And I understand the thing with tight ends, and you know it, they don't necessarily put up the greatest stats in the world. And after you get out of let's say the top 5 or 5 or 6, there's not a whole lot of stats that or there's not a huge difference in stats. One guy I'll give you is that I keep hearing the name is Austin Hooper.
Oh.
Austin Hooper is the guy supposedly that is going to have a big year this year. And I just keep hearing it through the grapevine, and the only reason I'm saying it is because it's just a name I keep hearing. I don't know how much I believe it because it's in an Atlanta offense that likes to spread it around.
Totally agree. We heard a lot about Hooper last year coming into the draft, coming into fantasy drafts. I know a couple of people that took him, and he disappointed them a little bit. But one of the guys that Hooper reminds me of, and I'll be honest with you, a couple of years ago, I took a shot on Zach Ertz, and I was a season too early, right? So I took Zach. I reached for him a little bit. I was high on him, so I took him in around, I think, maybe 8 or 9 a couple of years ago. And then he ended up shitting the bed. And then he came back the following year, and he had a great season. So I think that I was a year early on Zach. I think last year might have been a year too early on Hooper, and I agree with you that this could be the year that he really pays some dividends for you. And if you can get him late, he's one of those guys that you could probably get in around 14 or 15 if you wanted to wait on a tight end. He could pay dividends as well for you. We're going to get close to wrapping up here, but I want to touch base on a couple of late round running backs.
I'll give you one more tight end.
Go ahead, give me.
Virgil Green from San Diego.
Okay.
Because the fact
I see where you're going.
You love Philip Rivers center and pass all day, but there's no one else. He doesn't have competition. There's no Hunter Henry. There's no Antonio Gates. You know what? Where else are you going to pass?
No, I agree with you there. That's one of those names that you can get later on. They're a team that always looks in the red zone for their tight end. Philip loves the tight end as well, and without anybody else there on the roster that's going to be able to compete with Green, he's going to have the ability, or at least the chance, to do some things well. And again, a guy that's probably going undrafted, you can get really late. Keep an eye on him over the next couple of weeks. You could pull the trigger on that guy. You may be sitting on fantasy gold, like a Vance McDonald, where I just think that he's going to be a red zone target.
Yep.
You could end up stealing a couple of touchdowns. He might not catch 8 balls a game, but he's going to be a red zone target. And when you're looking for tight ends, with the lack of them there, if you're going to wait on them, you want a guy that's going to be featured in the red zone. Both of those guys can help you out late.
And I'll give you another Charger, honestly, that has been playing well this preseason that people just forgot about, who was a first-round pick, Mike Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think that he's going to get some of those red zone targets.
100%, and that's what might happen if Phil Rivers changes up his game. He's got a lot of big receivers. Obviously, Keenan Allen's the number one, but then you got to worry about Mike Williams, who's 6'4", 220, who's fast as crap on the other side.
Yeah, and I think Williams is another one of those wide receivers, Tims, that you can get into double-digit rounds, 11, 10, 11, 12, 13, that not a lot of people are too familiar with. He was hurt a lot of last year. I had him on one of my rosters last year, stashing him. It never really panned out, ended up dropping him. But if he's right, and I've read recently where he's going to get a ton of red zone targets because of the tight end situation, he's a guy late round that could end up being a steal for you, maybe become an every week starter actually down the line. Couple of running backs I want to get to before we say goodbye for our Sunday, and they're both out of New England. And any time that you're looking at New England, man, they got 4 or 5 running backs. We don't know the situation with Sony Michel, still banged up with the knee. Rex Burkhead just hurt. And there's 2 guys sitting on that roster that right now, one of them is going undrafted. The other guy is going, I haven't seen him go earlier than round 14, and usually he goes undrafted as well. I'm going to give you both of them to get your thoughts on them. James White. And how about this name that right now can serve, I think, huge dividends as your 4th or 5th running back on your league, in your league, Jeremy Hill. People forget Jeremy Hill's in New England now.
And I've heard the same things. And you know what? The funny part is, just like you want some teams you like to stay away from because you just get bad feelings about. That's why New England running backs do not get drafted high, because Belichick's an asshole, and one guy could have 150 yards the week 1 and touch the ball 5 times the next week.
No, I agree with you, and that's the reason why I think both of them are going so late.
But if I had to pick
again,
one, James White, especially from even last year, James White gets the catches. He gets the catches, and that's a big, especially the PPR league. James White's a big seal, especially that late.
And, we've seen Jeremy Hill in the past contribute. We've seen him have 1,000-yard seasons. We've seen him get into the end zone. We've seen him contribute in big ways for Cincinnati. A little banged up last year, fell out of favor. He's a guy that when you look at that backfield and you say, okay, fourth quarter, who's going to be the guy running down the clock? Jeremy Hill can end up with some pretty big value as a running back in New England. And again, he's a guy, when you look at it, Tim, we've talked about it this whole time. It's not the guy that you're drafting. It's where you're drafting them. So if you waited until round 15 or 16 and you took a flyer on James White or Jeremy Hill, think about what that could pay off for down the line. These aren't starters. These aren't guys that you're going to depend on every week, but they are guys during the course of the season that you could end up striking gold with.
And there are a lot of guys that are called addition by subtraction. I mean, if you have them, that means somebody else doesn't.
Exactly.
And the nice thing with Jeremy Hill is he's probably going to take over like the old days of New England, the Gary and Blunt role. He's probably going to be the goal line running back.
What's up, Jen?
That's the other thing. What's up, buddy?
Yeah. I got a question for you.
Any sleepers? Go ahead.
I wanted to go over general fantasy football. What is your favorite type of league to join? Do you go strictly PPR or I don't know?
I'm straight PPR. I refuse to non-PPR.
Yeah, I don't like the standard leagues. I also don't like leagues where your quarterback. I don't like if it's a 2 QB league. I'm out. I won't play in a 2 QB league because I think people draft like idiots in 2 QB leagues, and they'll take four quarterbacks and just hoard them. I think that if you're in a 2 QB league, there needs to be a rule in the league that states no team. First of all, it needs to be top 10 team league, and then no team can carry more than 3 quarterbacks, so that each team has 3 quarterbacks in the league, and each one of those guys is a starter. That you can't carry more than 3 quarterbacks on your roster at once, I think needs to come with that. If a quarterback throws a touchdown and it's getting 4 points, I want nothing to do with it. So I have my little caveats.
Quarterback that throws touchdowns for 4? No?
No deal. I can't do that. A touchdown is 6 points. A touchdown is 6 points. So I don't want to see any of that. I like bonus leagues. I like leagues where if a guy goes over 100 yards, he gets a little bonus. 150 yards gets a little more. I like 40-yard bonuses, so it contributes for big plays. So the more unique the settings, the more merit it holds for me.
What about two running backs starting, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers? One tight end,
I really
one flex?
don't see. I would rather have more guys playing than on my bench. So I don't like the whole quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense. Like, I want no part of that. Give me 3 wide receivers. Give me 2 flex spots. Give me a roster or at least spots where I can play with my roster and have options. I'd rather have more guys playing than more guys on my bench, because then it becomes difficult. You got a stacked team in a 10-team league, and you're sitting there arguing with yourself about who I should play. Open up the rosters. Give us a chance to play the guys that we've drafted, and let the chips fall where they may.
What about auction versus draft?